this awareness that, hey, pause, look around you. Is this really your life, or is this how you're seeing your life? If you're truly becoming aware of that pattern will change. And if it hasn't, there is also something that pattern is giving you. I think our subconscious patterns show up in almost all relationships. Now, as adults, we get to choose our narrative. A familiar pain is very often preferred by people over an unfamiliar possibility.
Hello everyone, welcome to my show Rewired. Today we have a very special guest with us, Chandana Ganguly. She's a clinical hypnotherapist and a gifted healer, and let me tell you, her vibe is as calm as waters. She's as deep as oceans, and I have had the joy of experiencing her magic, and let me tell you, she's amazing. So, let's meet Chandana Ganguly. Very warm welcome to my show. I'm really honored and pleased to have you, and I cannot contain my excitement. It's like a full circle moment for me. I have had the joy of experiencing your work. It's like it felt like magic, and I must say that your presence feels like a warm hug for me. So I really feel like I manifested this moment. So, welcome, Chandana.
Thank you so much. It is so heartening to meet you in person. And I know this was a dream, and to see you realize it is really heartening. So I'm so grateful for that. And thank you for that warm welcome you just gave me.
One thing that really stands out about you is you are as calm as waters. Your presence, आपके आते ही ऐसे लग रहा है कि सब कुछ काफी slow हो गया है. So, do you do you make effort for that on daily basis, or is it a natural thing for you?
They say if you are something, that means the opposite of that also exists inside of you, like a pendulum, right? So, for how calm you may see me right now, I have gone through a lot of anxiety in my life. I've been a very hyper person, I have been an overachiever. So, the calmness you see is the result of learning to surrender in those moments when I felt out of control. So, initially, life forces you to surrender. And then, after a while, you just get very easy with that concept of surrendering. So, the calmness is me just surrendering to this moment. And I think that is probably what it is. So, is it a daily practice? Sure, I have to remind myself that there is a zone where I can just surrender. So, I try. And then after a while, I just allow.
Yeah.
So, it's just a daily reminder, but I think it's life in general that brings you to a point like this.
What made you a person like you are today? Like, I am really inspired by you. Like, the aura you have, your presence feels like really calming. It's really nurturing, I should say.
That's so sweet. Thank you. I was, I was just another girl growing up, very ambitious, did really well very early on in my life. I think that was a blessing because I had a way to channel all my ambitions and desires. So I left home when I was 18. I went to the US to study. Then I went to London. I was in England for a couple of years. I worked there as well in very high powered jobs and went to very prestigious educational institutions. And somewhere that became my identity. And so I was always that person who was very much living it up, so to speak. And then in 2012, I had a series of challenges that came my way. I had a health issue, I had an autoimmune diagnosis, I had a couple of challenging relationships in my life. And at that point of time, I realized that everything that I was seeking, everything that looked so beautiful on the outside, did not give me that full nourishment that I was seeking again. So I started turning to simpler things in life. So I was raised in a home of faith. So my faith became very important in those moments of crises. I started turning to nature. started turning to simpler lifestyle choices. And simplicity became something I started to adopt very quickly. Then a series of events happened, and long story short, I found myself on a journey to solve pain. Pain was something because I was going through a lot of physical pain at that time. I was obsessed with the concept of solving pain. So I left my job. I moved back to India and I went on this journey of discovering different teachers, different healers, practitioners from anywhere in the world who would help me figure out my pain issue. And then when you enter this world, some people say, oh, pain is not just physical, it is emotional. So I started to explore emotions. I started to understand the subconscious mind. And so then some people said pain is also energetic. So then I entered the world of energy. So it was my very personal problem I was trying to solve. And that started me off on a journey of understanding myself and life better. So somewhere along the path, that pain got much better.
Yeah.
But I think I opened myself up to a world of wisdom that I had no idea about.
Yeah, so it is rightly said that pain has a purpose in your life.
It did in my life. It did. And I think another thing it taught me was I was given a very serious autoimmune diagnosis when I was just 25, 26. But I didn't know what it was. So I didn't believe that diagnosis very strongly. And so I think in the process of trying to solve that pain, I also learned the ability of the mind to work, to understand, to come out of things. So it also taught me the power of the mind. My own condition gave me that. Otherwise, I would have never realized it. These are things you read in books. You don't
Yeah.
really experience it in your
Yeah.
life.
So, as you are a clinical hypnotherapist,
Hmm.
you work with subconscious mind.
Hmm.
Tell me how your subconscious mind shows up in your relationships.
In your relationships.
Yeah.
So are you okay? So I'll tell you, there's a lot of talk between the conscious mind, which is the thinking mind, the subconscious mind, which stores a lot. I think for me, it is just different levels of awareness. When you're operating, think of yourself as the ocean. When you're operating at the very top of it, you've got the conscious mind. There's direction, there's clarity. You're navigating that ship on a particular course. But then when you go deeper, there are different things you notice about your life, right? And then when you get to the very core of that ocean bed, there is stillness, there's peace, and there's vitality. There's a lot of life. So for me, the mind is like that. The conscious mind, which is logical, the subconscious mind, that which is not at the top, but guiding life behind. But at the very core, I believe there is something called the spirit, the superconscious, which is that part of you that is connected to everything. And that superconscious and subconscious plays a very big role in how we show up in our life. So relationships are I think in life, relationships are such a beautiful way to learn, realize, and understand who we are. Because very often we end up seeing things in other people that is in us as well. And we start detesting things in other people that we don't like about ourselves. So relationships for me is a way we kind of discover who we are. Subconscious mind plays a big role in relationships because consciously there's only so much we can do in a relationship, right? We are human beings. So after a while, our automatic responses, our innate perceptions, our own beliefs really start shaping the way the relationship takes form. Two people, a relationship is two people. And the relationship they create together is a function of not just what they want, but who they are. And who they are is what the subconscious is. That part of you that you may not fully control. If we could all control who we were all the time, we'd be very different.
Yeah.
But we have certain innate responses, innate beliefs, innate values, tendencies that determine how we see life. Think of your subconscious mind almost like the lens through which you're viewing life. And two people, if the lens through which they view life is very different, then challenges exist. But if you are willing to learn, grow, expand together, then that lens begins to merge somewhere.
So, do you also believe that subconscious plays a part in attracting the relationships, a certain kind of partners we attract on the basis of how our subconscious mind works.
Yes, it's interesting because you'll always notice each one of us is a function of our childhood in some ways, or our life experiences. Childhood is the most prevalent life experience. And there may be things we like about one of our parents. There may be things we don't like about our parents. And as we grow up, we begin to realize we are carrying and doing the same things that we like or don't like about our parents, right? So subconsciously, we are influenced by our parents, our primary relationships. We are also influenced by the way we've lived our lives. So if I've had a life where everything has come to me relatively easily, I will have a perception of life is doable and very easy. If I'm a person who's worked very hard and achieved success, that'll be my belief system. So similarly, our beliefs influence the way we interact with people and situations. So if your belief is one of ease, confidence, empowerment, you tend to attract those people and those situations in your life that foster that.
Yeah.
If your belief is that life is very difficult, very challenging, you will find people of the same wavelength. Have you noticed that? Like in a friend group,
Definitely. Yeah.
friends will always want to, most friends always see the world the same way.
Yeah.
Or if they don't, they somehow begin to lose that
और
proximity.
फिर वो ऐसे बोलते हैं कि देखा मैंने कहा था ऐसा ही तो होता है.
Yeah,
And they tend to attract the same kind of people they imagine.
right.
Yeah.
But here is what I'll say. Even if I take the concept of subconscious out, who you are is what you will end up seeing being reflected to you in the
Yeah.
world. And then there is a theory, but opposites attract.
Yeah.
Because even in the opposite, there is a tendency that is in us somewhere. For example, if I'm a very underconfident person, confidence is something I deeply desire. Right? So it is somewhere that seed of confidence is already inside of me. So if a person comes in who's very confident, I will automatically gravitate towards them. The relationship may not be fully balanced, but it's how our own beliefs and perceptions influence how we see the world around us.
Do you also believe that universe teaches us through our partners, by giving them opposite traits? If I am not a confident person, my partner is a confident person, so I feel that I have to learn confidence from this person. Do you feel that we attract relationships we need to learn from?
I think all relationships in our life and all life experiences can be teachers. And our partners are the people we spend the most amount of time with, we grow with. They are the ones who see us in all seasons of our life. And so naturally, a lot of learning comes from them. A lot of influence comes from them. So for me personally, I'm deeply inspired by my partner.
Yeah.
In many ways. So, and it's not something I wanted. It is just by virtue
Happened.
of life. So a lot of the calm to my storm is also because my partner is a very calm person.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I've embodied a lot of calmness from that relationship.
Okay. That's really beautiful to hear, because when we don't have such kind of partners, that calm does not stay longer.
I think initially, whether it's a parent, some people have very calm parents and they are very calm. Some people have, so I've noticed my dog is very calm when I am calm. But when I get anxious, he also gets anxious.
Yeah.
So I think initially we pick up ways of being from people, but after a while it has to be anchored within. And that is when we can grow beyond those situations and those people. So initially it's helpful, but I also know that sometimes an opposite situation makes you really value these things. Like I had a very intense career as a banker, so I used to work really long hours. That intensity really made me value the simplicity of life.
Yeah.
The ill health taught me the value of a pain-free, healthy life.
Yeah.
So sometimes even the opposite can really churn and make you realize the value of something.
That's so true. Can you share an experience of a client who was struggling with a relationship, and then you realized that her subconscious mind was running the show?
So, yes. So I won't even mention a client. I'll say one thing I notice in a lot of people is that we have certain beliefs of how a partnership needs to be, how our person needs to be. And that belief is based on what we've seen around us, what we've grown up with, what we've liked, what we've disliked. So we carry this perception, right? And these beliefs are like dark glasses. You know, the different colors of dark glasses is through the lens through which you will see life. So I know a lot of people who were carrying a lot of beliefs from their childhood and by observing the relationship between their parents. And then when they came into a new environment, they started to project those beliefs. So, for example, if someone grew up with a very dominating father, they always had that tendency of or sensitivity towards being dominated. So in a relationship, the moment they started seeing signs of a person violating a certain boundary, they started to project a lot of unprocessed emotions they probably held towards their father.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this the other way around also.
Yeah.
So honestly, two relationships after a while is like almost like that part of you that has gone through life experiences. Like I give it the metaphor of two children in a relationship, right? Everyone is acting out of their
Childhood
experience,
patterns.
their childhood patterns, their experiences, their sensitivities. If your parents had a hard time dealing with conflict, children try to avoid conflict, right? If you had a dominating parent, tendencies are one person will be more submissive in a relationship. So we always are playing that out up to a point,
Okay.
and then awareness kicks in. That is the beauty of adulthood because we learn to understand. That's where therapy, reading, a lot of these workshops, they introduce you to this awareness that, hey, pause, look around you. Is this really your life? Or is this how you're seeing your life? Is this person really your parent? Or is this your projection of that, right? So I think when we re-understand that now as adults, we get to choose our narrative and we get to see things slightly differently, that is when those patterns start to lose hold over us. So if you were to ask me, I think our subconscious patterns show up in almost all relationships,
Okay.
especially our primary relationships. But with awareness, with understanding, we're able to break out of them.
Okay. When we are going through pain
Hmm.
or through a toxic relationship, we try to understand how can we break a pattern. We try, so it's a universe sign to become aware, you know. But does it happen with everybody? Or sometimes, a person spends whole life in the same pattern and then, the pattern goes on.
I think breaking out is something that not everyone is able to do
Okay.
because of multiple reasons. You may not be able to break out of something. You may not be able to even create a life outside of that relationship. There are a lot of constraints that people have. But Tamanna, I really believe that if you're truly becoming aware of that pattern will change. And if it hasn't, there is also something that pattern is giving you, whatever it may be, some sort of security, some sort of familiarity, which is allowing it to perpetuate.
Okay.
Because life is, if it's constantly happening, then it's not just happening to you. There is something that you are also getting from the situation. We call it collateral benefits, right? Even of pain.
Okay.
And that is what keeps us in that situation much longer.
So you want to say that pain also has benefits
A
in
lot of
some
people,
ways.
I remember when I learned this, I was shocked that a familiar pain is very often preferred by people over an unfamiliar possibility.
Oh,
You see that? So people
yeah,
will,
that is surprising.
yeah. So a lot of people are in that situation because there is a sense of security, familiarity, known devil of that part of your life. So they continue.
So it's like familiarity feels safe to us.
Always. Safety comes from familiarity, which is why most human beings are so scared of change.
Yeah, I also feel that somewhere we are scared of growth.
Hmm?
Growth is painful. So I did this 10-day Vipassana course. So when I came back, I was feeling an unknown fear all the time. The fear is that I want to grow. But I I had that reality check that it won't be easy. Somewhere I was realizing that it would be painful. And I was feeling it all the time. Like I kept feeling it for 5 to 10 days, that fear. Then I realized that there is no way to happiness. And there will always be pain. So it's like एक reality check मिलता है ना जैसे. I could see that I am fearful of the growth. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect me to feel fearful after such a retreat, because people usually expect that you'll be feeling calm and peaceful. But I was feeling an unknown fear.
And what do you
So
think that fear is now?
I think that fear came from attachments. And I realized that they are not permanent through my experiences. So yeah, that was giving me a lot of fear. Most of our fear comes from our attachments to things, to people.
Yes.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Fear was a mechanism that was meant to keep us safe. But over time, our safety moved from survivalism to a certain comfort in people. Now we attach safety to having a certain socioeconomic status, a certain way of life, to the people around us. I think people are very big emotional anchors for others. And so this fear of losing people is a very primal fear, because so much of our security comes from others. And I can see why an experience like a vipassana that helps you understand impermanence can trigger that. And it's something that's so real. Even I really fear that sometimes. And then I remind myself, so I'm sharing it with you, maybe it helps. And then I remind myself that these people who I am claiming are mine, my partner, my parents, my loved ones, they are not being sustained by me. They are being sustained by life.
Yeah.
And I am being sustained by life. So this lifetime is this beautiful place where we've come together, but we don't, we are not off each other. Does that make sense? Like I almost feel like
Yeah.
I didn't, I didn't keep them going. Life has kept them going. So I just surrender to that process. That life will take us all forward in the direction that is right for us.
Yeah. Earlier I used to stress over people, not doing the right things, like not taking care of their health.
Hmm.
But then I think you made me realize this, that it's not our job to fix them. And when I surrendered, I think I felt a lot of peace thereafter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The test I ask myself is, am I doing this out of love?
Yeah.
For me, love is also freedom, expansion, peace. Or am I doing this out of the need for love, control,
Yeah.
holding on, security? And if I'm doing it out of the need for love, then somewhere that intention will not necessarily get the desired result, because there's a big element of trying to control life.
Yeah.
And I've realized, at least in my case, that it's not possible to hold on to it. That's also one challenge which I have with the developmental world. Everyone's out there to, whatever they figure out, they're there to control life. But if we, instead of trying to control life, look to understand it, it becomes a beautiful companion. And then you can co create that life with this universe instead of trying to always, negotiate and win and try to achieve certain things.
Yeah.
Because when you flow with life, some beautiful experiences unfold more than what any one of us could have perceived.
So, in this fast paced life, how to, like, is there any ritual or practice, or what should we do? Like, how to get that slow mode in ourselves on?
I want to be very clear that, any ritual that we prescribe, it gets outdated. So the ones that really stick are the ones that have worked for you personally. And that requires a little bit of experimenting. Maybe a particular type of breath work, a particular type of kriya, a particular practice gave you a certain degree of peace and equanimity in your life. Then that becomes your ritual, right? So it's very personal. But I think another thing that really helped me is to understand that that peace, that stillness is available to you right here, right now. There is a big body of philosophy which is called Advaita. And it talks very beautifully about you and what you're seeking. That universe are not different. It's available right here in this moment. You just need to tap into that stillness inside of you. So that peace, that equanimity is something you can access moment to moment. But you're right, a practice of connecting to it regularly makes that muscle memory stronger. So any practice that has worked for you, just do it. And I think there comes a phase in our life that we will know what is working, what is not. But what happens very often when we go on this path, we get too fussed about the practice. And we forget the practice is a means to an end. It is not the end.
Right.
The end can also be right here, right now, 2 moments of you coming back home.
We really have to come back to our homes. But yeah, somewhere we are lost. We're lost in the processes of, having that perfect life, that finding a right job, finding a right partner. And then we lose our emotional wellness, I would say. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what does emotional wellness mean to you, and how to sustain that in our relationships throughout life?
So, can I give you a story, a very inspiring
Sure,
story for me?
definitely.
There are 2 stories.
Okay.
When I opened my studio in Bangalore, my first studio, there was a cleaner who would come to my studio, and every morning she'd greet me with a lot of love. And I remember one time, and every time I'd look up from whatever I was doing and say hi very nonchalantly. And she'd always come with the brightest smile. Then one day I learned about her life story. And she had lost a child, she had lost her partner, she was a single mother, and she was severely diabetic, and so her health was precarious. Yet she showed up every day with a smile. That for me did something because I noticed this person is not a function of what's happened. They are just finding joy in where they are. So every time my clients would come to my studio and they'd compliment the space, I would always tell people that, hey, this is not me. This is the person who's shown up with her positivity and love.
Yeah.
And because of that, she touches everything in that space. I had a similar experience at another workplace of mine where there is this one person who comes and takes care of the room that I work in. And I promise some days he'd make the most beautiful flower arrangement. And some days he'd organize the stones in a particular way. I would come into that room and I would feel love. And I would just know when he's touched that room. We had this game going that every time I'd look at him, sometime during the day, I'd be like, you did my room today. And he'd be like, yes, I did. Because his touch carried that love. And both these people are people who are leading very supposedly ordinary lives. They are running, they are working hard, they are raising families, but they are still moving people with love.
Yeah.
And that love is coming through what they are doing,
Yeah.
through the attention, through their energy that they're putting where they are.
Yeah.
And for me, that is really inspiring. I found that taught me so much in life. That when you show up with presence and give your presence, your attention, your focus, that's a beautiful form of devotion.
Yeah.
And do what you're doing, but with love, with authenticity. Then you will find that energy flowing through you too. And you will see the ripple effects.
Yeah. So you can do the simplest things with love and by being present, and you can convert them into, beautiful moments.
Acts of service. So many of us remember when we went to our grandmother's house and what our grandmother made or something she would give us to eat. Or everyone has these memories, right? It's not that they were they were making something extraordinary. It was the emotion and energy, the intention with which they were serving it to us. And I think that is what is so true, because not everyone is going to have that life that, you can put up on Instagram and, boast about.
Yeah.
But life is found in those moments of simplicity, presence, and connection.
Yeah.
And that then you enter that paradigm of energy where everything becomes alive.
Yeah, and from that energy, it is easier to manifest joy, love, abundance.
It is who you are.
Yeah.
Then manifesting isn't what you do, it is who you are.
So there's lot of sayings and trends about manifestation. How to manifest your dream life, if you would ever tell this to the audience.
You know, such an interesting question you ask me, because I think, okay, I'll look back at my own life. I'll ask everybody to look back at their own life and just understand what made you manifest. What were those things that you did when your dream came true? Because that is your success. That is your quota for manifestation. What I have found is that honestly, it starts with this moment of clarity and alignment, when inside of you just know that this is something I want, or this is something that I need to do. Then that clarity and focus channelized into action creates a beautiful reality for you, whatever it is. But most of us get stuck in that initial first step of being 100% aligned and clear, because of our limiting beliefs, because of the blocks we've had. So and then we think, oh, this manifestation isn't working. But no, it's not the manifestation that's not working. It's because most are outside of that desire to manifest, everything that you are in your being, what you're doing, what you're believing, is not in alignment with the desire that you want to manifest. I remember a very sweet story. My mom used to tell me that there was once a village, and the village was praying for rain because there was no rain that year. And so the village said, okay, let's just everyone congregate together and we'll do a little community prayer. And there was only one man who showed up with an umbrella. And all the villagers were like, is this a joke? Why have you shown up with an umbrella? Because we are here to pray, there's no rain. He said, this is my faith.
Yeah.
Right? You guys are spending hours here, but none of you really believe it will rain.
Yeah.
Because none of you have prepared for that in your life.
Yeah.
So the moment that inner clarity comes in and you're aligned, your actions, your results will fall in that direction.
And faith is very important.
Trust. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of us are of the opinion that when I see it, I'll believe it.
Yeah.
Right? That's natural. But that may not, but the doubts may stop you from seeing something that's right there in front of you. So look back at your life and see where faith has worked, and start there.
Okay.
Because not all of us can have that same degree of faith.
Yeah.
I remember there was this lady who came to my clinic once, and she was working for someone who I knew. She had a lot of back issues, and I gave her one Reiki healing session. And her faith was so strong, that was all it took for her to be okay.
Yeah.
And the next day she called me, she said, that was really good, thank you so much. And then I noticed there are clients who I've worked with for months, but their degree of results is not the same, because somewhere this lady was super positive and believing and trusting. Of course, issues may be different, but it showed me the power of faith.
So faith is different for each person, I would say. Some people believe in universe, some people believe in Shivji, some people would believe in Krishna, right? They do rituals, like they're religious, they go to temple, but their faith is very weak. They are doing it out of a ritual. So what would you say to them, like, who have made it a ritual to do it every day, but the faith is lacking?
I think even in that ritual, they are getting something. Maybe it's a sense of security.
Yeah.
But I guess every time I've tried to break out of a ritual in my own life, the only thing I ask myself is that that you seek, maybe the universe, maybe that God, maybe that part of yourself, what would that part say to you? So, for example, if I pray to Krishna and I'm trying to do all these rituals, I just sometimes just stop and I think of Krishna and I say, okay, what would Krishna really want?
Yeah.
And honestly, all Krishna would want for me, in my eyes, is just time, that connection,
Yeah.
that's that pause together. So then I tell myself that, okay, this ritual is okay, but that's not what that force really seeks. And then I altered it to kind of create more moments of what feels more authentic. Because see, though I may pray to Krishna, though I may pray to Shivji or the universe, they are just different paradigms of us connecting to a higher power. That is a deeper consciousness within us.
Definitely.
So when I pause and I ask, what would that consciousness need? Somewhere I'm asking myself, what do I really need? And then your faith becomes more aligned with you as opposed to being just a practice.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We really want to move towards a higher, wanting some sense of security, safety,
Yes.
and so हमें एक safety feel होती है कि कोई है
Hmm.
to support us when we
Yeah.
pray to God. मुझे ऐसा
Yes.
लगता है कि even when I was coming here, I was praying, so ऐसा लग रहा था कि we have somewhere to look up to,
Yeah. And a permanent anchor.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because it is an invisible anchor, we can imagine it to be everywhere with us.
Exactly.
So
That's
yeah.
the beauty of faith.
Yeah.
Because that which you pray to is such a deep part of you.
Yeah.
And but we can't always, we as human beings need something tangible, so we give it a form, a shape, an attribute, and it makes us easier to relate with it. But yeah, but it's always there.
Yeah. And when you realize that it is always there, then every moment can become connected and beautiful. And prayer can happen anytime, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'll ask you a question. As you're connected to this energy, what's happening to that fear?
The fear loses its grip, I would say.
Yeah.
What is the role of talking to our own self? The self talk that we do plays in our subconscious mind. How does it play its part?
We are always in self talk,
Yes.
right? So, whether we are aware of it or not, we're always talking to ourselves. And most of the times, we're repeating our fears, our worries, our thoughts, our beliefs. So, it keeps getting stronger,
Yeah.
right? There's this beautiful scientific experiment where they've taken two types of plants and they've spoken to the plant just different things.
Yeah.
And the plants have shown differences in their growth.
Yeah.
Right? And they've had many controlled samples where they've spoken different words to water and they've noticed the molecular structure changing.
Yeah.
So, words and what we invest in has a lot of impact in who we are.
Yeah.
And if our self talk tends to be negative and always centered around our fears, our anxiety, our worries, then naturally that is the consciousness we'll be in.
Yeah.
But the moment we start investing in things that are outside of that, more with ease, trust, flow, and this is where nature plays a huge role. This is where our community plays a huge role. This is where what we consume, whether it's media, whether it's information, plays a huge role.
Yeah.
But when we are tuned to that frequency, then naturally we'll start seeing life from that frequency too. So I think all of life and constructed religion is trying to do is trying to get people where they can, or at least the intention was to get people to a lighter frequency of being. So I always give this example of a building. Think of yourself as a building. There are 12 floors. When you're at the ground floor, you can hear the traffic, you hear the noise, there is limited light coming into your house. At that time, if I tell you, Tamanna, there's a beautiful lake a couple of blocks down, you won't see the lake. You'll say there's just noise and there's no light also, so forget the lake. But if I take you to the 6th floor of the building, धीरे धीरे something starts changing.
Yeah.
The noise goes down. There's more light coming in. You can see bits of the lake. If you get to the very top of the building, something shifts. The cars are there, but you're not triggered by that noise. You can see more. You know where you are, you know how to get to that lake. You can see so much around you. And there's this openness, this silence. Those floors in the building represent a certain emotional state for us. When we are in lower floors, and lower floors is when you feel restrictive emotions like fear, anger, jealousy, insecurity. At that time, honestly, you will see very little.
Yeah.
And no matter how much someone tells you, you can't experience more. So you just need to figure out a way to raise your state. And then you will start seeing more, experiencing more. And your response will be a slightly much more realized response.
Yeah.
So that building is a beautiful paradigm.
Yeah.
And I guess our life's journey is about how do we go from the lower floors to the higher floors? Because you will come to the lower floors. It's a part of
Yeah.
your building.
Yeah. And we keep going from lower to higher and then again to lower, throughout the different phases of life.
In a day, you can be in all
Yeah.
3 types of a building.
Yeah.
But I think it's about having that awareness that right now I'm in the lower floor.
Yeah.
So I should just focus instead of trying to figure my life out.
Yeah.
Like I think Einstein said, you can't solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. You need to raise your state and then see where the solutions lie.
You talked about action, where I wanted to pick up. So, some people try manifestation, visualization, but they lack taking action. Most of my life, I was not able to take that action which I really wanted to because of certain fears. So, how to get away from those fears and start taking alienated actions?
There's a beautiful tool I came across, which I think will help explain this. So you've got your circle of life, which has all the goods, all the bads, things that you can control, things that you can't. So that's all the big things in your life. You put that in a circle. And then inside that circle, create another circle of those things that you have control over.
Okay.
Right? That's called your circle of influence. So you've got your circle of life and your circle of influence, those things that you actually can do, which is in your control. The rest is not.
Yeah.
And as you look at those things on in that circle of influence, start taking steps towards them. Very often what happens is we look at our whole life and we get very overwhelmed. So in every situation, chunk down to what is in my control today. Continue that. And like you said at the very beginning of our conversation when we were talking about how you got here, you said, I just took a step and the next step appeared.
Yeah.
So it's all about be clear with that intention and take that step.
Yeah.
And then the next step and the next step will organically appear.
Yeah.
But focus on what's in your control.
Yeah. And I believed if the next step does not appear, maybe it is not meant for me. And if it appears, then I would walk that path.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it worked for me. I remember you told me that, Tamanna, you were sitting beside the ocean and you were just saying that the water is warm. But you're not putting your feet in the ocean, in the water. And how would you get to know the temperature of water without putting your feet into the water? So then I realized we have hundreds of scenarios in our mind that it will not work. But until we have not tried it. Yeah, so that beautifully worked for me.
I'm so grateful to
Yeah.
hear that. Yeah, so you dipped your feet in the ocean?
Yes.
And the waves are carrying you away?
I did. So with so much noise around relationship advisors through reels, trends, red flags, green flags, what would you say? How do we really tune in to what we really need in a relationship?
I think what we seek in a relationship is very closely related to who we are. I personally believe to create a healthy relationship, one needs to be very connected with their own needs. And one needs to be able to truly take care of what's going on inside of them. Otherwise, the relationship just becomes a punching bag where we end up dumping a lot. So, start with self awareness, start with understanding what your needs are, and start with taking care of those needs. Because if we are constantly going to look outside of us to get a certain degree of love, affection, then somewhere we'll always be driven by that need for love. And then our relationships will be very conditional.
Yeah.
So, for any relationship to become unconditional, it should come from a place of empowerment
Yeah.
and then love. And when you're empowered and you love, you're able to allow a lot of freedom in that love. But that can only come when your needs are taken care of. So, for a successful relationship, I think understanding your needs, taking care of your needs, filling your cup, being true with yourself, seeing your darkness. Because if you are aware of your darkness, you'll be able to be authentic and vulnerable with your partner. But if you're running away from your shadows, you will always be in a blame game. Always feel like the victim or the person who's being blamed in a relationship. So, healthy relationship starts, I think, somewhere with that inner connection, understanding yourself, going a little bit on a solo journey. It is important. And then showing up.
Yeah.
Did that answer?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think you answered my next question as well.
There's one metaphor
Yeah, okay.
that I always think of when I think of a relationship. It was this Osho's metaphor he had given that think of two trees. When they have strong foundations, they have their own trunks and they grow next to each other. They grow really tall
Yeah.
and then they merge eventually. Their branches merge. That is very different to when two trees are at the very beginning trying to grow into each other. They end up cutting each other's light and only one grows and they don't really go very far. So when it comes to a relationship, think of being those two trees that are individual, strong, empowered, and running along. Because that is what will create a beautiful long journey and a beautiful merger ahead. But if at the very beginning we are trying to take from them, give them at the cost of us, then somewhere those lines will eventually go beyond.
Yeah. But what about when one tree is growing and other tree is not growing? You know, what happens to such relationships? When one person tries to grow, work on herself or himself, but the other person is not into that zone of growing. Yeah.
See, growth is a very personal choice.
Okay.
Right? And just because you're on a trajectory does not mean your partner has to be on the same trajectory. They may be growing in their own ways. So just recognize that you may need to create a space to connect from a place of love outside of this growth, because that growth is a very individual choice.
Oh, yes. Also, one thing might be growth for me, and another thing might be growth for my husband or my partner. Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. But when we grow and we come from a place of a little bit of a judgment, I am growing, I'm doing all this work, what's happened to you? That's their journey. But hey, can our love, can we still meet in a place of love without these ideas and notions? That's where the beauty lies, that no matter where you are and what you're doing, you can come home and just be with each other for the people that you are. And for that, you need to be safe inside.
Okay.
Otherwise, that space of safety in a relationship is co-created by two people.
Yeah.
That if your safety is always the other person, then you'll try to drag them on your path of life as well.
Also, we look for validation in a partner. Like, we want those approvals.
Right.
And when it doesn't come, it feels a sense of void. So, how do we fill that cup within ourselves?
I think it's so useful to recognize that the way you seek validation is probably not the way your partner is used to giving validation.
Oh, that's so needed.
Because
Yeah.
we grew up in a way where we were validated a certain way.
Yeah.
They grew up in a way where for them validation was probably shown in concern, in deep listening,
Yeah.
in being there, not interrupting. So we may never be able to figure out this beautiful communication of love. And we think words do justice, but honestly, 70% of communication is non-verbal. We're always picking up on actions
true.
and perceptions.
Yeah.
So just recognize, I guess, going back to that question, when there is a need for love, fill your cup, give yourself validation so that you show up in that relationship feeling comfortable, not feeling denied or
Yeah.
feeling a sense of lack.
Yeah.
And there are also times when two people may not eventually work out in the long run, but even that can be done very beautifully. It need not come from a place of I did this or you did this. And that always starts with, hey, your feelings, your responsibility.
Definitely.
I think that is something we've not been told. We should have been taught this in school. Your emotions, your feelings,
Your responsibility.
your
I think
responsibility.
emotions should be another subject in the schools. What would you say to the people who have gone through a heartbreak and also they have not got any closure, you know? Yeah. So how do they heal themselves?
I know heartbreak is a very sensitive area, and I think everyone experiences it in life. I think the first thing to know is that if you're hurting, so is the other person, right? Because very often we are very consumed by our own pain. The other thing to note is that it is possible for both of you to be okay, correct in your own ways, and it not working out. Because one thing we take away very often from heartbreak is something was done to us.
Yeah.
And everyone is figuring life out. So no one's intending to harm or hurt the other. They're just figuring lives out.
Yeah.
So you may have hurt someone accidentally, someone may have hurt you, but that's okay. And I think finally, I guess what the best way from a heartbreak is to realize that there's a space available in your life.
Space of?
A space available in your life.
Space available. Okay.
And that space is yours. And it's a sacred space. And see where that time with yourself takes you. Don't be very quick to fill it. Because there is something there that is also important for you to realize and take away. A relationship very often requires us to be so focused on the other. So when that does happen, as sad and heartbreaking it is, there is that space for growth and that time, that sacred time for yourself. So do those things that really nourish and nurture you. And when you do, when your energy rises, your state rises, you look back even with love at that person or that relationship and be grateful for what it was.
Yeah, that's so important to realize. That was so beautiful, actually, to realize that we need to nourish ourselves first before jumping into another relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important.
It's like, you have a remote control which controls your life. That remote control is your life choices, what you spend your time on, where you invest your energies. But very often what we do is we give that remote control to people around us. So we start doing what they need us to do. And we may give this to our loved ones. So this giving of remote control can also be acts of love. Mothers give it to their children. People give it to their parents. People give it to their partners. But as long as someone else is holding that remote control to your life, you will always feel like life is not fair or it is out of control. So when a heartbreak or a relationship ends, it's a time when that remote control is in your hand. Just spend time nurturing that.
You talk about past lives, you do a lot of energy work. Sometimes two people are not meant to be together, and there is nobody's mistake. So, how would you interpret that to the people that it is not meant for you when blame is involved? You know?
There are two things. There are the actions that have taken place, which we may have done or the other person may have done. And then there is the person behind the actions who may or may not have been fully operating from their best when they did certain things. Very often we hold on to the actions and we interpret the person based on the actions.
Yeah.
But the person is human, going through their own insecurities, their learnings, their journey. And in past lives, if I was to look at this from the construct of past lives, every relationship has a certain purpose in our life. Maybe that heartbreak taught me independence.
Yeah.
Maybe a divorce taught me self-reliance. Maybe a relationship taught me how to discover myself, right? Maybe an abusive relationship taught me strength,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
every relationship has a purpose,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful purpose. But if a relationship ends, it's probably that purpose is done.
Yeah.
When we hold on to it or when we criticize or judge ourselves for it, that's futile because you were not the person you are when you entered that relationship. As you've evolved, what is no longer a right fit will fall away.
Yeah. So now you're not that person who went into that relationship. And this version of you does not need that person, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that person is no longer that intimate person for you.
Yeah. But it is so difficult to realize because we are attached
Yeah.
to having that person in our lives. So, yeah.
And we're also attached, I think, because of Disney and Bollywood. We've been sold a lot of concepts of what true love looks like,
Yeah.
what passionate love
Yeah.
looks like. But true love can also mean a silent goodbye.
Yeah. Like recently, the movie Sayara movie
Mm.
released. Some students were literally fainted in theater. So yeah, the people are really connecting with the heartbreak feeling. I don't know what would you say to them, how they internalize heartbreak so much that they forget their careers, their passion, their ambitions.
In psychology, we're taught different stages of development,
Yeah.
and connection, intimacy is a very big phase of development because in that phase, you learn a lot about yourself. But when you're going through that phase is everything for you.
Yeah.
So they are internalizing it, they're resonating it with it, they are connecting with that notion of that unconditional, crazy, passionate love because somewhere they need that. They want to feel that in their life. And it's beautiful, experience it, but then comes maturity, then comes lessons in life.
Yeah. Even experiencing that is beautiful.
Of
I
course,
know.
every lesson is beautiful.
Yeah.
Looking back, it's like life's a school. And I think I was having this conversation with somebody and they gave me this beautiful analogy that life is a school. In 12th grade, you're learning very complicated maths things like calculus, etc. But you never look at a second grader who's learning probably multiplication and judging them for it.
Yeah.
Because when they are learning them, that's everything, right? And it's hard and it is what it is.
Yeah.
So that's a phase of life. And that's beautiful in its own way. And then when you learn different things, those become beautiful in their own way.
Yeah. That is so beautiful. So yeah, maybe they have to go through this pain or this experience.
For who they are as people. Not every youngster will go through it.
Yeah.
But for who they are as people, they're naturally gravitating towards
Yeah.
that experience. They will experience it. They will learn from it. They will grow from it.
Yeah.
They will move forward.
Okay. For couples who want to practice emotional intimacy, rather than just talking about their feelings in being one, like what are the tips you would give to the couples to practice emotional intimacy?
I think emotional intimacy, first step is know yourself. Because if you don't show up as who you are, and if you're not comfortable with yourself, you won't be able to create a space of intimacy with another person. So in spiritual psychology, we're taught that the world is a mirror. So whatever is being reflected back is also something you need to look at within you. So spend enough time getting to know who you are, nurturing who you are, so that when you enter a space with another person, you are comfortable with who you are. Right? So that creates a more balanced relationship.
Right.
Share from your heart, be honest, be vulnerable, but at the same time, recognize that your version of sharing, your way of communicating is personal to you, and that other person has their own way of understanding, processing. But create a space where you guys can just be who you are. I think giving that freedom to the other person to be who they are and taking that freedom to be who you are creates true intimacy. And that intimacy may not be like Sayara, but it will be one where
Yeah.
you can just be
Yeah.
and you're comfortable being who you are. I remember reading this somewhere that when you can be silent with a person for a really long time, that's also very beautiful.
Right.
So, honest communication, authenticity, but taking accountability for yourself.
Yeah.
Because very often we just talk about our feelings and expect the other person to do something about that.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. It's an equal relationship.
Yeah.
Another thing which I thought was very useful is very often when we come into a relationship, we end up thinking a lot about the past and we end up projecting that into what's happening. We call it
Yeah.
bunching from the past and
Yeah.
dumping it on the person. Don't do that.
That is why it is very important to take that break from one relationship and heal yourself
Yeah.
before jumping into another relationship.
And if something is showing up and if something is triggering you, treat it as that thing and don't attach everything else around it. So that's another thing. Be very present with where you are. Be honest with yourself as to what is happening. Find a way to communicate that and also know that the other person may or may not respond in ways that you're ready for. But then when they have this freedom to be who they are, you have the freedom to be who you are, you may be able to create a beautiful space
Yeah.
of communication and sharing.
Yeah.
And something which I tell a lot of my couple clients is that figure out what love means to the other person. Because for you, love may mean physical affection, but to another person, it may just mean being deeply present with each other.
That's true.
So figure out what love means, because otherwise, everyone will feel that they're not loved in the relationship. Figure
out what love means for your partner.
for your partner
Yeah.
and for yourself, so you can communicate and understand that. Find that space where both of you are able to talk
That is
that
such a
language.
great tip. Yeah. So that we can show and express love in their way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you have a little child, you will start talking like the child,
Yeah.
right? But when our partners, we'll never do that.
Yeah.
We always want to be, you know,
कि
you
मुझे
have
ऐसा
to me
प्यार
to be.
चाहिए.
Exactly. Sabko pyar chahiye.
Yeah.
But what about giving that love in the form that the other person needs it?
Yeah, and it is also about you will receive in giving.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. This is such a deep realization.
Hmm.
Yeah. So can you share a client story? You worked with their subconscious minds and there was a transformation. So a transformation that really surprised you, maybe.
It happens so often. I'm trying to think of what's a good story to share. So I'll tell you one that happened that comes to my mind, or some things that I see a lot is very often when a person loses someone they love, there is a lot that is unsaid. There is a lot that is not processed, and they have all these emotions that they had with the person. But very often when we do subconscious work, we can also connect with people and bring some sort of closure to those relationships.
Okay.
And it's beautiful to see how those loved ones have come back. And sometimes these people are not deceased. They could be people who've just left your life.
Okay.
And how those people have come back and communicated and the things they've shared. So what the client was probably internalizing as guilt or anger or unprocessed business has come with a beautiful closure, beautiful message.
Okay.
And that's been very healing for the person receiving that message. And it's allowed them to let go very beautifully. So I think this also goes back to that point of, remember that fear and attachment that we have.
Yeah.
Very often when people have lost loved ones and they've worked and connected with them and the messages they've gotten has really helped them
Yeah.
heal knowing that this person is actually okay.
Yeah.
Those emotions, that love is intact. And that has been very healing for people. So for grief, I think one of the first things I tell people is let's connect with that loved one and understand if there is something that still needs to be completed between you guys.
Yeah. And you talked about when you work with subconscious part of yourself. So there's an energetic connection. The energy work that you do and the subconscious work that you do coincides here. So, so now we'll be moving towards the energetic work that you do.
Hmm.
Before moving on, let's take a break here, and then we'll move to another episode.
Perfect.